Yeah, now the recording started. First few words in Finnish. Eli tällä kierroksella on niin toinen pääsiäispäivä, eikö maanantai ole toinen pääsiäispäivä? Odotin, että meitä ei täällä ole kovin monta. Meitä on itse asiassa 5-6 enemmän kuin mitä minä odotin. Joukossa on yksi henkilö, joka ei puhu suomea, ja se on prosentuaalisesti nyt niin iso joukko, että kaikille oli ok, että pidetään englanniksi. Kuitenkin haluaisin tämän videon, viime kerrallakin kun me nauhoitettiin tämä video, niin tämä oli englanniksi, mä haluaisin tämän nauhoittaa myös suomeksi, niin pidämme tämän saman session suomeksi jossain vaiheessa, koska haluaisin tämän nauhalle myös suomeksi. Okay, and now switching to English. Sorry that this introduction text is in Finnish, because normally our sessions are held in Finnish. This week we will go through how to read public statistics available in Finland using Power BI and PowerQuery. I know that there are different public statistics providers outside or kind of all around the world. For example, Denmark has a good statistics service. Unfortunately, that service is using a different API than our kind of what we use in Finland. And this service, because of that, doesn't work against, for example, for Danish service providers. But this is like a request or kind of hint for anyone who is listening this recording or in this session, that if you find a provider, I'm willing to help if it makes any sense, that we would implement similar readers against different providers. But today it's all about the Finnish statistics providers. And what I'm talking about is that if you type in with the browser q4.fi, it will redirect to the stat.kumio.com, which is a completely free service. It doesn't record anything, so it doesn't know who you are, where did you come from, or anything like that. It has a free Google Analytics that JavaScript part behind the scenes, but it doesn't record any of the selections. So it only receives like a general level information that how many visitors we have on the site, mainly because I would like to know if anyone is using the service, but it doesn't record any of your settings or something. So kind of you are anonymous, completely anonymous in the service. What is it? What is it? It's the PXWeb reader. So PXWeb is a platform which has been decided in Finland as a platform for public open statistics. So whoever in Finland provides a public government or commune statistics is using the PXF, or most of the providers. That's like a recommendation from the Finnish government. And I have implemented here kind of all the different providers I have found. It doesn't mean that I have everything, but all the ones I have found from Finland and from different providers outside Finland who provide the statistics in the same platform. So the API is somehow similar. They are like Moldova's statistics are actually very different, the API, than Finnish statistics, but with some tuning, some kind of modifications here and there, I have managed to implement readers only for these providers. But today, to get you a feeling how it works, we will use Eläketurvakeskus statistics, which is quite a new source in this service. It's the pension care provider in the Finland. So actually, the provider who maintains all the money that is paid out from the pension care system. So if you choose the provider and get base data, this JavaScript will query from the API. What are the possible dataset categories you will receive from there? And here we have, for example, the amount or count of receivers of the pension care. So this is the category of that. Sorry, this is in Finnish because I was preparing the whole set in what I will provide to or present today in Finnish. Then here we have a statistics. So this is now reading the API from Eläketurvakeskus, and from here I will choose some of the subcategories or a report. It depends on the API whether this is a subcategory or actual report. And if I still show you the other ones, there are some that are in Finnish, and if you speak English, there are also some that are in English, and of course there are some that are in Swedish or Norwegian or something else, depending on the source of the statistics. Okay, then we will look how many people have moved themselves from the working force to the pension receivers. So there was a public debate on Finland before the new year that due to high inflation, we will have like a lot of people going from the workforce to the pension receivers. So we will see whether that is true or not. And if we look from here, and actually I will look the monthly statistics because this is much more interesting. This one was the one I was looking for. So monthly, the count of people who has moved from the workforce to the pension receiver within each month. Then it will read when you go into the website, when you go to the actual report page. So you are in the subcategory, and then the actual report. You will see all the dimensions that are available within the dataset. You can select all, take all the options available currently. You can choose create values dynamically, which means that it will show the current number of elements in this category. So as of now, we have 110 months in the dataset. Next month, we will have 111. So it's one more. And of course, if you uncheck this one, select all, you are creating a static query that will not contain the future months. But if you want your Power BI report to behave in a way that every month you will get new values and you don't have to modify the Power Query at all, you will create values dynamically and then, for example, select that I would like to get 130 maximum number of values. So then it will work like 20 more months going ahead. Then you will choose what are the different other dimensions. I'm not going to say this in English because I have no idea what they are what they are in English. And then you will also select all the other ones. Easiest one is to just select all if you want. But of course, this one multiplies the number of rows, because you could think that if I only select like one of these, it will have like a certain amount of rows, and if I select the other one also, it will double the rows because it's the kind of cross join over everything. So it could be that some data sets grow very big if you select everything. So that's kind of you have to take care. Then there is always a one like a measure dimension, which only describes that what are you want, or what do you want to get out of the query. And then you can finally select if you want this one to be a dimension query also. So basically, if you are joining or want to join multiple dataset and use one of these as a common dimension for different queries. So this one creates kind of one additional Power Query statement. We can, for example, take this one and create that as a dimension query. Then this is for your regional settings. You want to say what do you use in Power Query as your decimal separator. So in Finland, if your Windows is Finnish region, you will choose comma. And if you have an English region, you will choose dot. Then I will generate the Power Query. And now it says that this whole query will contain 13,500 rows. And as Eläketurvakeskus, so the provider, has accepted on their API a request that can query at one time more than 13,520 queries, it will generate only one batch. This kind of application can divide a query into smaller subsets. So use as a separator some of the dimensions if it's kind of if the dataset is large enough. And this is actually something very cool because on their official API, if you go to the Statistics Center of Finland API, it even says on the API that you can only query a maximum of, I don't know, was it 20,000 or 30,000 or something rows within one query. And you need to prepare like additional queries after that. And now you can actually choose kind of how big dataset you want, and it will provide you a working Power Query behind the scenes for doing that whole heavy lifting of the data. So it will basically divide the query into multiple subqueries. Okay, I pressed OK. Here it will say it generated two different queries, one for the dimension and one for the actual fact. And now I will expand the fact. So clicking the fact table button, and I can copy this one to my Excel or to my Power BI desktop. So from here, I have a Power BI desktop available. I will go to the transform data. And from here, I have a previous query which I practiced before the session available. I will generate a blank query. So that's like a query without any data. And then I will go to the advanced editor. And from here, Control A, delete everything, Control V, paste the one which was generated within the service. And we have a working version. And to prove you that I'm kind of this is completely anonymous for kind of Q4 or the stat.qmu.fi, all these queries go directly to the service provider. So kind of I have no clue, or it's completely anonymous against my service that what you are using or are you using this service. So now clicking OK, and my Power BI desktop went to the Eläketurvakeskus API, read all the data back in, and it's showing the values here. And we are interested in the, I think this one. Okay, of course you have to know what do these mean, because kind of it depends within the query that what are the actual values, but I know that this tilastokuukausi is actually the measure about the kind of count of persons going from the workforce to the pension. So I will change this one because this I have no clue, and there is no way I could determine the data format. There has been a request like a few years ago, first time, that, hey, you have to modify the query so that it detects the data format. Unfortunately, it's too complex for me. If you know how to do that, please help me here. But I'm pretty sure it's impossible. So you have to change the data types your own. So I will change this one to be a whole number, because I know that's the whole number. These could also be whole number, but now we are not interested on those. So that's the one. And then it will, which is also quite different when comparing to the public API, or kind of raw API from the provider, is that raw API provides these ID values, and my query finds kind of the descriptive values for that same dimension. Here we have a month. The descriptive value includes doesn't include separate month and year. You could potentially separate this one to be two different columns, but now we are okay with this query. So I will click OK, and it will go and request the dataset, and it's now the query 2. And from here, now it's loaded to the Power BI desktop. It could be loaded to the Excel asset also, and you can get here the value. Let's make this as a line chart, and then let's take the month as an x-axis. Let's make it a bit bigger, and also by default it sorts them from the biggest value to the lowest value. Now we of course want to sort by month, so then we kind of know that they are in a chronological order, and then ascending, so that the kind of oldest value is at the left and the newest value is on the right. And then if you look at the values, and here we can see that yes, the news was definitely correct. On December last year in Finland, 67,000 people went from the workforce to the pension care system, and if you compare that to last year, it was like the lowest month. If we would have divided this so that we would separate these to two different columns, we could of course create now the kind of multiple line chart where we could compare, but that's not the kind of that was not the thing to show. It was the thing to show that if you want to use on your models public data, that's actually quite easy. That you can just use this service, generate the Power Query, and import that to your data. One more thing, is this 67,000 actually a correct value? You have to know how the data is laid out. So, for example, if we take tietotyyppi, I will drag that as a filter. We have to know, kind of look through that what are the values. I think that this will not, or this has some change, or some change to the system. So this is this dimension is separate. It's separate measure, and here I don't know what what does mean the intermediate amount of euros per month, but I know that that's kind of confusing, or it's the values in there are not related to what we are looking. So you kind of need to look through all the dimensions that you check the correct one. So now we are counting also only the count of people, but also here let's see if eläkelaji kuukausitilastossa. So this one has some like show all. No, it doesn't. So this one kind of has a different formats or versions. of the pension, but there is no like all together, because that's very common in the public statistics that they divide the data for different subcomponents, but they also, as a one subcomponent, they will have like all together. And then, of course, if you put them on a line chart, you will get double the numbers because you have all the subcategories plus the one that is like a total. So that's kind of, you have to always look through that to make sure that you are counting the correct thing. For example, here in this eläke laji, if I remember correctly, was it so that here we had the total. Here we have kaikki eläkelajit. So this is like a total count. So we have different subcategories, and we have kaikki, which basically means that if I select this one or unselect this one, it should have an effect on the counts, because it should double the numbers. Now I don't know why in this data set it doesn't do that, because you can see that this one didn't go to the 40 or something, didn't change. But that's something that you need to keep in mind, that I'm only providing you the way to read the data. You have to make sure you are looking the data correctly. So kind of common mistake is that you have some dimension where you have multiple all value and you have the subcategories. Just double check that you are counting the values correctly. But here we could easily, within a few minutes, get a kind of public statistics information of Finnish pension care system, that how many people went to the pension on at the end of last year, and it's way much than normally in every month. Good. So, and as said, finally, one more thing, that I chose Eläketurvakeskus. I'm not that interested about the number of people going to the pension, but that's a new source. So I'm adding here new sources whenever I found a provider that, okay, this actually fits in the system. So if you find somewhere PXWeb provider, please give me a hint, and I will add things here. So for example, Moldova statistics, if I remember correctly, was provided by someone who found me on this service from the internet and said that, hey, Moldova Statistics Center has the same API. You could also add this one. And for me, then it's quite an easy task if the API is somehow similar. There are differences on these ones, but I have like if else switch type of things behind the scenes that they generate a slightly different PowerQuery and work against the sources. But kind of don't spend time trying to create one. Use this one. It's completely free. No hidden cost. No hidden asterisks or anything. And one of my own customers actually is using, or multiple of my customers are using this on their production environments. One of them asked that what happens if I just kind of don't have time to maintain this service. What will happen to that? This is already published to the GitHub. It's not a public repo, because kind of I would need to do some modifications that the code is more readable, but it is on the GitHub, and if you want, you can get kind of I can share this repo to you, but it's not that I'm kind of, I would not like to share it with you, but it's more about the fact that I'm ashamed about the code behind. I would beautify the code, and then I can share it even more publicly. But it's not something that if I get tired of hosting this or maintaining the service, you will have access to the code, and you can start hosting that service on your own if you want. So no, even that is been taken care of. That there is no problem on that. Good. Thank you for everyone who joined live and everyone who is listening this after the recording has been published. Thank you.